All right, I want to welcome everyone back to another episode of Soul Impact, How Music Saved Us. I'm your host, Wild Willie. Today with us Todd Guthrie. Todd, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Wow, where to start? As as a profession, my profession for 40 plus years was a production welder, and that's what I did. And about 20 years or so into my profession, I started teaching myself guitar because, like a lot of people, deal with depression, but the big thing was anxiety and the pressures at work. So that's what I did. I found that playing the guitar and just being able to refocus my mind on one singular spot, that be the song of the guitar, was for me a very saving grace. And that's I've been doing that for 20 years. It was never meant to go like on podcasts like this or anything. It was just to manage stress. And so then it just kind of got a life of its own. And I did some writing in my younger days, in my late 20s and 30s, and then I transferred that over to music. So I've been writing music for probably about 10 years now, give or take. And that's it's kind of my life. I decided a long time ago to retire into music, so I retired here a couple years ago, and it's been great to be able to just pour everything into my music. My family's real supportive. Uh, my girlfriend, she's super supportive, and I even have a young fellow here in the neighborhood who wants to learn guitar, and we kind of stumbled on each other and seen him out walking because I walk the dogs every night, and we kind of started talking. So I have started now my new project, so to speak, is helping him along his journey with the guitar. That's kind of the synopsis of it.
All right, so are you doing shows and stuff then? What are you playing with a band? What kind of stuff do you got going on in that aspect?
I have done openers for bands uh, here in well, mostly in Grand Island, Kearney, and Hastings. I've done a bunch of openings for Hall County Incident. There was a one band is no longer together, Motorco. They were out of Kansas. Hall County Incident, which I've done a lot with over the years. Plus, started working with Dale Barnes down in Sterling, Nebraska, and he had, well, excuse me, Virginia, and he had the stage in Virginia, which you can now is the Meadowlark Listening Room, and I've done a whole bunch of openers for him. Addison Johnson, Nick Dickmeyer, and the Sawdusters, uh, Clint Park, Isaac Rudd, and the Revolvers. A lot of independent musicians, non Nashville, but just independent people that's out there. And then I do a solo act. So I do small venues. I've been up several times to Bottle and Barrels here in Omaha, and I put on a 3 hour show. Plus, I've done some stuff for the American Legion up here, and just kind of whatever comes up.
So you said you got your start kind of, I'm not going to say late in life or older in life, but you were a little older when you started. Do you feel that it has affected the way you perform any at all?
I wouldn't say it. The only real problem that I found is my hands aren't young anymore. So I have about a handful of chords, and that's kind of what I do. I do push myself to learn new stuff and new lyric chords, but there's a lot of things I can't do. I can't bar a chord. My hands just don't bend that way. Especially when you start at about 20 years into your profession, and anybody who does any kind of construction or heavy industry stuff knows that it takes a toll on your body and takes a toll on your hands. So I sometimes I have to transpose a song to get to chords which I can play or makes it sound pretty close. It's not exact, but it's close.
So, is there, when you started learning, was there someone you was like, man, this person has amazing style. I want the kind of style he has or they have. Was there someone that popped in your mind that been like, I want to be like this person?
I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, so there was an amazing number of guitarists you've seen on the television and stuff. Roy Clark was the first one that comes to mind. Stuff like guys like that. But were they cool? Hendrix, loved Hendrix. I can't play like Hendrix. I can't play like Stevie Ray. But I mean, you see that, and you kind of that's the gold like Stevie Ray's gold standard. Okay, to me, or Hendrix is gold standard because there's no way, there's no way I can do that. Nor is there any way I could do justice to their songs. But I just did me. I didn't worry about. I didn't have a lot of influences as far as musicians when I first started. So it was kind of definitely on my own. And the sound that you hear is an interesting combination of just about a little bit of everything. Folk, country, older rock. It's a mishmash. If you really listen to it, it is definitely a mismatch. I don't fall into the category of a country, although because I do cover a lot of country songs. I definitely don't fit into rock. I call it Americana. It's it's kind of generic, but it's my own sound, and it kind of bothered me for a while because I couldn't sound like, or I didn't sound country or this or that. And I got to the point where it's like, you know what? I sound like me, and all I can really do is be the best version of me that I can. That's kind of, you know, I would have loved to had somebody who was a really great guitar player teach me, because I'd probably be a lot further along the road than what I am now. But I learn every day.
I mean, that's kind of with me. I started my business. I run a DJ karaoke business. Going on 5 years, I think. It's been so long I don't remember. And I kind of just got into it because growing up, there was a guy, everybody called him Big Lee, and he did karaoke and he had fun with it. And I always kind of want to do it. Well, I got in a bad car accident and lost my job. I was working at a charcoal plant here pretty close to where I live, and I was like, you know what? I could go to work and then I'd be in bed for about a week. So I was like, this can't. I got to do something. So I decided went to a friend of mine's wedding, and a DJ charged him $1,200 to do an all-day wedding, and I was like, that's outrageous. So I kind of got into it, the DJing aspect, to help the working class people. I mean, most people working a job in today's society is working paycheck to paycheck. I mean, and you can't really afford $1,200 unless maybe when you get your taxes. I mean, so I got into it for that reason. Well, then I brought my karaoke stuff up into a festival I was doing, and the sound guy showed up drunk. And,
oh no!
And they're like, "Well, you have the equipment. Do you mind running sound?" I was like, "I have absolutely nothing know absolutely nothing about any of this. So I'll let y'all use my board and you can adjust your sound accordingly. Well, there was a guy named Levi, and he was awesome. He was probably the first one that actually set me down and showed me kind of the logistics of running sound. Well, over the years, there have been some other people, like there's a guy named Storyteller, there's a guy named Bubba Stars. All of them along the way. I mean, for me, as being someone, and I never considered myself being in the music industry because I really didn't consider DJing. I mean, it is, but it isn't, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
But now I can definitely say I bring all my equipment. I've updated as the years go. Like my first equipment, I bought off Marketplace for $450. I used it for 2 years, and I'm slowly upgrading. I went from non-powered to powered, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I say all that to kind of bring it to this. Like I realize, and I also have dealt with my fair share of anxiety, depression, abuse as a child. In fact, growing up, I always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And then I broke my arm, so I couldn't turn my arm up. So I was like, I'm gonna find other ways to help get music out there. And like now, I've got my business, plus I got this podcast, and I'm able to connect people. Like there's guys that have been on my show that I may not be my personal taste of music, but they put their heart into it, and that's a lot of what people don't realize is even when you do a cover, like if you do a cover and you sing it exactly like, let's just say you do a Jimmy Buffett song, okay? And you do it just like Jimmy Buffett does, don't make it your own, people's not going to find it as entertaining as if, even though you do a cover, if you put your heart into it, people are going to be like, man, this guy got me going. He worked the crowd. I like this guy. I'd see him 3 or 4 times. I want to keep seeing him, see where he goes. And it's a lot with the artists, and I'm noticing, because like I said, I've been doing festivals the last 4 or 5 years as well, and I'm noticing these guys that write their music, and I'm not knocking the ones that don't write their own music and just perform other people's stuff. I'm not knocking those. I don't want you to think that. But you can see the healing along the way. Like I mentioned Storyteller, and I've seen him been at so many different shows he's done, and to see where when he first wrote one song, the emotion he put into it hasn't changed, but you can tell where it's healed him. And so and you said you write your own music. So is there a song that you have written that has probably been the most therapeutic for you?
Great question. The way I write, I listen to what people say. And listen comments and how they say it, and how people put words together. And every once in a while, you'll have one of those statements that somebody says that sticks in your mind. And so it's it's a flow. It either comes or it doesn't. You know what I mean? You get 4 or 5 lines, or you get a line, or you get a whole song. I don't try to push it. I went to see Kyle Saylor Band in Kearney, and they had a group called High Moon, and they were sitting there. I'm sitting there with the band, and I know the guys real well. We're sitting there having a drink and talking about stuff, and they come on. The guy says, it's a duo. Well, he says, we got this. He says, this is the only song we have about Nebraska. And I kind of chuckled because, I've never thought about who writes a song about Nebraska, you know? And there was a line in there. It's beautiful this time of year. And I kind of went, I like that. Never wrote it down or anything. So fast forward a couple weeks, that's like kind of popped into my head. So I sit down and wrote this song called "This Time of Year," and I did an interview for KGFW in Kearney, and you had to feature one song. Well, that was kind of the newest, and I'll just feature that. So I'm kind of going back over it, looking over it. And when I looked over it, I said, "Oh my God, it was my song. This is really about me. Didn't write it about me, but it really come out. It's about working too much, and it's about people calling you up saying, 'Hey man, come on down. It's really beautiful this time of year. You know, sun's out. You know, weather's clear. I'll just come down and take some time,' because at the time I was working pretty close to 70 hours a week, because that's the way some people deal with shit in certain ways, and they get all boo-hooey, and they put themselves into their bedroom or wherever and just say, 'To hell with it, I'm not going to deal with it.' Well, I go the opposite way. I go to the point where I'm at work, because when I'm at work, that's the only one problem, and that's whatever I have right in front of me at that time. And so when I went back through it, I kind of got, yeah, that is, to me, that is probably the most emotional song, inwardly for me, because it's absolute spot on. You know, the last verse goes, "Maybe this time isn't worth it. Dying for the man. Maybe I should put my toes in the sand, have a few drinks, learn to play a song." That's the gist of the last. That's the last core. That's the last verse. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't think about it, and I'm the same way. Even through my divorce, I never stopped the DJing. I kept with my DJing. I kept working. I'm the type. I'm the same way. I'd rather have a distraction. And now, used to my distraction was alcohol, but music has kind of helped me overcome that quite a bit. Um, but yeah, a lot of my music love come from my childhood. I was abused pretty hardcore as a child by my stepdad. So I dealt with a lot of that. So I plugged in the football, and that's where I actually started helping a little bit. But then they would they do these walkout songs and come out songs, or how you want to say it. And I just started realizing, man, I can relate to this song. And I don't write songs, but I do write poetry. I mean, it's one and the same.
Sure is.
One's a little longer than the other, but more or less the same thing. And to me, when I sit down and write, I mean, some things naturally come, and there's a lot of emotions that come through it. Like I've written songs about my divorce, or not songs, poetry about my divorce, about the crap I went through as a child, and if it wasn't for music, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, through my divorce, I didn't like who I was. And it's gonna sound so cliche, but that song by Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror, ain't gonna lie, that is probably the biggest song that helped me through my divorce, because I didn't like how my marriage was rough, and I didn't like who I became through my marriage, but I wanted change. So, and everyone knows that song. It's a very popular song. It talks about you got to start the change within before you can change anything else. Talking about the man in the mirror.
Oh yeah.
So there's been songs, and like there's a song by Rascal Flatts, "What Hurts the Most." I loved it when I first heard it. But that is one song that after my divorce, or through my divorce, the meaning hit completely different. So, is there a song, and not necessarily you wrote, just maybe even a song, more or less just a song you heard, that has probably been your biggest help in overcoming the obstacles? Like it come on and it instantly started healing you?
That's tough because I've always been a music person, even as a kid. So music was, it's one of those things that I loved. Um, there's, I think there's too many to number because there's certain, there's just certain songs that say certain things. Uh, the one song that definitely makes me stop and and think and ponder is "Fire and Rain" by James Taylor. And you listen to it. To me, it's a very emotional song. Um, and that's the one that makes me stop and kind of reflect on a lot of stuff. And you kind of go, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. It's just it's the suck now. But uh, the great quote I heard, and I don't know where he said where it was. It says, eventually the clouds will run out of rain.
That that is a very interesting way of looking at it. I never thought of it that way.
But I mean, yeah, that's what happens when you write and you're a musician. You get these little little things that you hear and you go, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
See, my big one was with my anxiety and my depression is you win if you don't quit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Oh, 100%.
even when I talk to people, I was like, I'm in a lot of support groups, not just for me, but to help other people, and I hear songs like just if it touches people and the message behind it, those songs that, and you can tell when someone's writing to write and they're just writing to put songs out there. Be like, all right,
Oh yeah.
I gotta have 5 songs written by the end of the week. And you can tell when that person's doing it versus someone that, I don't care how many songs I make, but I'm going to put everything I have into every song. And if I only get 2 songs done in a year, then you know what?
Yeah.
Them songs are going to be, you know, what people get to know you by. Because,
Yeah.
you know, when you're up on stage and if you put your heart into everything, especially your music, people are going to know when you come off that stage, they're going to be like, oh, after hearing that song Todd wrote and how he performed it, I know a little more about Todd than I knew when he hit the stage.
Yeah.
Because it tells your story. And that is the great thing about songwriting is you're able to tell your own story and reflect upon it as you're writing that song. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. The one question that came up with KGFW was, I forget the exact way he put it, but it was something to the fact of, is do you is there something of you in every song that you write? And I says, if you really sit down and listen to it, I do believe that there's a little piece, there's a heartache, there's a victory, there's all that stuff is in there. It's not on the top of the surface. It's not on the top of the surface. And sometimes what people don't do now, I think, is they listen to the music and they kind of miss the lyrics. But that's okay, because the people who need that song, or whatever that song is, it'll get to them. You know.
see, I'm going to be honest. It takes me 2 times of hearing a song for the first time. Well, take me 2 times of hearing a song, like when I first heard the song, to process the song. The first one, I listened to the rhythm and the lyrics, not the lyric, the rhythm of the song and how it's played out. And then the second time, I listened to the lyrics. Because, I mean, no matter, like you said, I mean, y'all as writers, whether you mean to it or not, you're going to put who you are in that song. I mean,
Yeah.
And how you write today may necessarily not been how you wrote 20 years ago.
Yep.
Because for one, you're not the same person.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a thing about how music evolves. Because what you write today, you're going to hear that song 5 years down the road, and you're going to be like, man, I have overcome so much. So, and a lot of people don't give y'all credit because they're like, oh, this person ain't putting enough music out. Versus the people that are just getting the songs written to them and submitted to them. And I'm not knocking those people.
No.
At all. They're talented, and I'm not doubting that. But to me, I think it takes more heart and charisma to write your own stuff because you don't have no guidelines when, like they do, when someone submits a song. Because as a writer, when you submit a song to somebody, you have your idea of how the song is to be played.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I'm going to call you freelancers, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that's more or less what you are. You are freelancing, writing your own stuff. You don't have that cut dry, all right, I want these played on 3 chords, and this is how I pictured the song. So
yeah.
So you said about 10 years ago, you switched to songwriting as well. You added songwriting as well. Where have you seen your biggest growth as a songwriter?
The way the songs are put together. It's like anything. Uh, golf or playing music or writing or anything artistic like that. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more you write, it sounds like the first few years sound like absolute garbage. And I mean, to me, what I wrote, but but then sometimes you have to go back and look on that. Well, it wasn't so bad. But I think for me it's how things are put together. A little bit more polished. It's everything I do is very rough, which is not super polished, and it's fine by me because you don't hear all you hear today is super polished auto tune and all this stuff. The sad part is these singer songwriter 60s 70s maybe even started into the 80s. That's a pretty sparse population anymore. Uh, yeah, and if you really look at Nashville, they have writers groups, and so they all sit down and sit there and collaborate and put a song together. Fine, that's if that's what they want to do and that's your calling, that's cool. I'm fine with that. But on a more, but it's not as personal. You can't to sit down and write a song about um, you know, working way too hard, having people say, "Dude, you seriously, man, you need to take a vacation. You gotta back off here a little bit." That personal stuff like that is what I don't, in my opinion, you don't see a lot of now as you used to.
See, I'm at the point where I agree because I was raised on the older country and even the older classic rock. Bob Seger. That's I do karaoke, and that's one of my go-to karaoke songs. I ain't gonna lie, old time rock and roll. I mean, it's a good crowd getter. But country wise, I was raised on outlaw country. Porter Wagner, Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings. The list could go on. And you don't see a lot of that. I mean, you look at Johnny Cash. He wrote songs that would probably get him off the radio station nowadays. And I'm not saying that to me, but I shot a woman down. I mean, people hear that now. It's hear that now and it just changes. I mean, and I don't mean to sound that like it's a bad thing, but
well, it's just
it isn't evolved. It has evolved, and I understand that. And there are still artists out there that does have that raspy, natural, old country, and I prefer that stuff. And I mean, everybody has their niche, and I'm not knocking anyone from someone else. You know, you got talent, and I can acknowledge the talent. But someone, like you said, people dress it up too much. I mean, that's not your. Sorry about that.
that's cool.
See, that's what this is about. You know, I mean, honestly, I want the realization of everything. We're not perfect. I'm a single parent, and I have so much on my plate. But you know what? That's the importance of it. That little girl knows no matter what daddy's doing. And not everybody has that. And I understand. As a kid, I did not have that. So that's why, and I'm not going to say I'm trying to gear just towards kids, but anyone that's struggling, I mean, anxiety, and you know, I'm coming back to that because I know you deal with that, but by us talking, but they're not alone. And so many people times thinks, you know what, I'm the only one out here dealing with whatever child abuse, whatever the struggle is. I want people to see, you know what, Todd puts his pants on the same way I do. Because artists nowadays are almost idolized.
Yes.
And I'm not knocking looking up to someone and saying them being a role model. There's a difference between being a role model, looking at someone as a role model, and idolizing someone. Because you look at someone and you're like, man, I want to be like him when he gets up, when I get older or whatever, you know. But then you got them people that obsess with that person. And they're like, oh, I'm jealous of what this person has because I don't have it. And it becomes where it takes that focus off of being like that person to idolizing them. I mean, initially, I mean, you think, and I know it's always been there, but I think it's worse today. I really do. I mean, and I guess it's because I'm more into it now and I see a lot more, but so, where can people find your music at?
I am on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Todd Guthrie Music.
And send me your link. Do you have at least your YouTube one? And I will post it when I post the video.
Yeah, I can. We'll do that.
That way, it kind of shares you because I mean, I ask that you share my video when it comes out, and I can't ask that you share my video when it comes out if I'm not willing to help share you. And that's what this is about. It's not just about telling a story, which everybody has a story, and you know, anyone that has overcome the anxiety, as you can relate, has overcome a lot. I mean, part of anxiety is it isolates you. It really does. So when you deal with that, and then you add depression on top of it, and
that's a great combination.
oh, it is. And then I mean, horrible, but I mean, and I want people to be able to like, you know what? I seen him here. I like what he had to say. I'm going to check out his music, or hearing a song, and that's a lot of what I do, especially now that I'm doing this podcast. I can't play every song everybody has because they're.
Sure.
But when I'm DJing my events, depending on the crowd, because there's some crowds that don't like this kind of music, so you play to what the crowd likes. But I play at least one song from someone that I have interviewed on the podcast.
That's cool.
For one, y'all all did me a solid by giving me your time. The least I can do is return the favor. And, there's guys I've gotten on that plays rap, and I'm not knocking rap. But there's areas where I play where they're like, oh, it's rap, I'm walking out, I'm leaving. So that's why I said you got to play to your crowd.
Absolutely.
If and I'm sure you as a performer can relate. If you're playing in front of 5 people and you're not getting no reaction, it's going to be harder to see the light, so to speak, through it. Because you get discouraged because people's not into it and everybody's in their seat, versus when you're playing to 50 and people are up moving around, interacting, you can tell they're liking it, versus people just sit here like this. So if me doing me by doing this podcast and allowing you to tell your stories, and it's going to help show Joe Blow down the street that Todd has dealt with anxiety too. Maybe I should listen to his music to see how I can relate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there any advice that you would give? And this is not necessarily going to be a music-related question. Is there any advice that you can give to someone dealing with anxiety and depression on how to overcome it?
Well, kind of. Because, I still have days, and I'm sure you do too. I like stupid little quotes because stupid little quotes come to my head. First one's like I said earlier, eventually the clouds are going to run out of rain. It's not going to rain forever, and the sun will come out. Secondly, the thing that I try to remember every day, don't always work, but is ever forward, always forward. To sit back on your pity pot is okay. You got a little bit of time to sit there and bitch at yourself on what happened, be whatever the situation is. But at some point you have to get up, dust yourself off, and start moving forward again. You can't just stay there in a rut and I'm just going to be boohoo forever. You're not. To me, that's not the way to live. I do my best to stay happy. It doesn't always work. There are still struggles. I'd be 65 next year, or next year. I have a son who's 28 who has autism, and that poses an interesting set of issues. Even though and I hate saying this because it sounds to me it sounds horrible. He's normal to me. I know he has issues, but he's high functioning, has a job, went to college, graduated with honors, but still has issues even today. And it's hard. It's hard dealing with my stuff some days and dealing stuff with his stuff. But that's where if you got some decent people around you, a partner, a friend, a buddy, a really good coworker, they can say, "Hey man, how's it going? How's it really going?" And you can sit down and say, "Oh, well, everything hit the fan, and this is what's going on." And they can sit there and listen to you, not judge, and kind of point you in a different direction to go. That's aces in my book. You don't have any better friend than one who's going to sit there and help you. Stuff blows over. Anxiety in itself eventually drops down. Just God, don't overthink stuff. And I'm a terrible one to say that because I used to overthink everything. And so it's just, you get up every day and grab your coffee and say, "You know what? Today's going to be a good day. I don't care how much shit hits the fan. Today's going to be a good day." Because at the end of the day, the only thing you can truly control in this life, in whatever, wherever you're at, is how you handle stuff. So, kind of laugh about it. I'd more than once, one supervisor said, "Oh, everything's hitting the fan," and I'd kind of laugh, and I'd laugh at him, and I'd say, "Well, here we go. We'll get through it." It's not about if you will or you won't get through it. You'll get through it. You just got to start laughing. People got to start laughing about stuff.
Oh, you're completely right. And gotta quit looking in the past. One of my favorite sayings, I had a preacher tell me one time, and it's not a religious quote, but you ever notice the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield?
Absolutely.
And that is a saying that has, through my anxiety and my depression, that has probably, because I get real anxious and I dwell on the past, and then it gets me depressed, and it's a vicious cycle. And so I had to learn it's okay that the past is in the past because it's who I am today. Focus and move forward. And so many people get, almost our negative Nancy. And I don't mean that being bad, but they're full of negatives all the time. Like, I can't do this. Yeah. I don't know how to do that. And everybody has their obstacles. Like, I ain't gonna lie, April of this year, I broke my arm in 4 different places. Even through that, I did not quit DJing. Was it an obstacle? Absolutely. Because when you go and you can't move your arm because you're used to doing everything by yourself and having to ask someone to tag along, but I found a way to make it happen. So, that's my big thing is, you got to keep your eyes forward,
Yes.
So 100%. On the, give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. Give me just 1 second. I gotta go check something. Sorry about that. My daughter was hollering, and I just wanted to make sure she was okay.
There you go.
But the thing about all this is people don't realize, music will help you. And like you said, finding a group of people that you can, like, I deal with that stuff really bad, and I used to be a horrible alcoholic. I have these group of men that I meet with once a week that I can be real with. And so many people don't realize the importance of being real. And I'm not saying it has to be on a religious level, but you do need to find someone that you can, let stuff go.
Yep.
B, hold you accountable. Because if you're going to say, all right, and I'm using you because we're talking, all right, Todd, I'm going to quit drinking the day August 30th is going to be my last drink. There's two parts of that. For one, you got to trust that person enough that they're going to check on you and make sure you're okay. And on the flip side of that, you got to be okay telling that person, "Oh, Todd, I'm 2 months in, and today was a hard one, and I took a drink." So you do the importance of finding that core group that you can be real with. You know, not just on the music aspect.
No.
But in life, music is the greatest tool, and I honestly believe this. The greatest tool for anything you face in life, music will help you overcome it. If you listen to the lyrics and the rhythm, and you truly listen to the song, you know. So, is there a time to come to mind, a certain time that, if it wasn't for music, that you may not be here?
Oh, I would say that's probably a very true statement. Um, because when you deal with anxiety, you deal with depression, you get into this poor me thing, um, and you self isolate even though you're still out there functioning, a functioning adult, but you isolate yourself. Oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, I would say if it wasn't for the music, if it wasn't for, well, it wasn't for the lyrics, if it wasn't for me sitting down and consciously saying to myself, okay, for the next hour or whatever, I'm going to do this and refocus. And to me, the big thing was refocusing my brain, because you start overthinking, and then you don't have one voice in your head, you got a whole Mormon tabernacle choir up there yelling at you. Yeah, I would say I would have probably went off the deep end a long time ago had I not grabbed onto this, you know. And but it it's everyday struggles, man. That's all it is. It's everyday struggles.
And that's the thing about anxiety. It's ugly. It really is. I mean, you're not gonna dress. You can dress a turd up, and it's still a turd. Okay,
Yep.
it's ugly. But you know, different songs are gonna hit different. If you're anxious about this, let's say you're anxious about whatever the situation is, or you're mad at whatever. You're mad that the divorce. You're going through a divorce. The songs you listen to aren't going to necessarily be the same songs that you listen to on a daily. I ain't gonna lie, it sounds horrible, but one of my songs when my ex-wife first left was "She Hates Me" by Puddle of Mud. I'm being honest here, but as I evolved,
I know the song, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's a cool song, and it's kind of funny, but it's, yeah, I know, I get it. I
but
get it.
but as it evolved, it became more about who I wanted to be through my divorce. So the
Hmm.
music I started listening to changed, and you know, when I'm angry, I listen to different music than when I'm just listening to music. I always
Yep.
have music on. You know, for one, I'm a DJ, and I absolutely love my job.
That's great.
I also do home health part time, but eventually, I want my DJ sound company to stand alone. And one day it'll get there, but I'm not going to dwell on that. You know, that's where I have grown with my anxiety is because before I would get so anxious about seeing where this was going to go. And, another good quote is live in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people get all tied up in the what ifs and the past. What if I do this and I fail horribly? Oh, well, you tried. But you can't live in that. I mean, you really can't, because then it's going to eat you alive. So, is there advice, and we did advice on the anxiety part, is there an advice you would give someone wanting to get into the music career and someone struggling with it?
Well, I did it the wrong way because I started teaching myself. If you could find somebody who could be a mentor, and I know that's difficult, but if somebody you could find somebody who could be a mentor, who could kind of walk you through stuff, how do I do this or how do I do that? Answer the questions. This fella, this neighborhood guy Jacob, who's wanting to learn the guitar, and he came over last night and we showed him some chords and stuff he needs to work on, and the whole thing. And he, I never had that. Everything I learned, I had to learn off the cuff and by myself. It would have been nice to be able to sit down with somebody. Now, I'm not the greatest player in the world. I mean, in my mind, but we sit down and I answer some questions and see, what about this in a song? What about that? When do you change? A lot of basic questions. I didn't have that. I muddled through it. I would take a song and put it on YouTube and listen to it and strum along with it. I mean, the struggle was real, but now there's so much more out there. I mean, there is stuff on YouTube. There's some pretty good teachers. Find you a teacher who can show you to do it right, and or the greatest thing would be to do is to go to an open mic. Especially you're thinking about getting into music, go to an open mic, and then get the kahunas up to go talk to somebody. Hey, tell me about this, or tell me about, especially a singer songwriter, and just talk to him ask him a few questions. God, most of the guys that I know would have no problem answering some questions.
Oh,
What about this or what about that, or find it. But if you can find a mentor, that would be top notch.
but on the flip side of that, you are completely right. But on the flip side of that, you can't take, and take. You got to be just like you. And when you get to that point where you're comfortable, I'm not going to say, but you're comfortable with what you're doing, you got to be able to pour into other people as well. It's not about everything you can take, I can take from you.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be able to pour out. And you're dead right on the mentor. When I started my DJing business, I did not have a whole lot of that. Now, when I started my podcast, I do. I mentioned Bubba Stars, and I met him at a festival. He has become a dear, close friend of mine. I would do anything for the man. And he has a award-winning podcast called the Scene Project.
The Scene Project. Yeah.
And he has become a dear friend of mine. I have questions about the podcast. He's been there, done it. He's like, all right, Willie, this is how you deal with it, And, it's okay to ask questions. You might think they're stupid, but the only stupid questions when it comes to being a mentoree is the ones you don't ask.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely. Very true.
Buddy, I want to thank you for the time and thank you for the time and for you coming on the show and giving me your time. Because
no problem, man. Like I told the kid last night, it's all about giving back.
Oh, absolutely. We're probably gonna get ready to end, but before we do, I gotta do a real quick shout out. I want to thank Kingdom Creation. They made me this shirt. If you're looking for a shirt,
that's cool.
You can find them on Facebook. The owner, Bill, he's a real great guy. He does ship. So he's kind of one of my first sponsors for the podcast. So I'm moving up in the world. So check him out. But again, Todd, I want to thank you very much, buddy. And for those of you that are watching, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.